Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching. Hi, Rick.
Hello, Sarah.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, good. So, welcome everybody who joined us today. Let me show the banner for Rick, so you know a little bit about him, and I will introduce him in 1 minute. So here his banner. Rick Rhodes. He's the author, the 10-time author. His newest book is They Made America Great. So that's the topic we are talking today. And he have a story to tell us, and we can't wait to share the story with you. So, and I want to show my banners just a few seconds. This is my banner in case you never met me. I'm Sarah M. and I am also an author. But today we are not talking about my book. Today we will talk about Rick's book. And I just want to show you my banner so you can reach out to me if you need help and need support somehow, some way. I'm so glad that you are here with us and welcome. So, welcome, Rick. And I want to introduce Rick to you very quickly. Our presenter today is a 10-time nonfiction book author and an authority on American history. He spent most of his adult life living aboard boats and has traveled far and wide in the America. Let's welcome Rick. Welcome, Rick.
Well, thank you, Sarah. You did some homework to dig up with that introduction. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. So I will let you introduce yourself to our audience. Quickly, whatever you want to tell our audience. So now your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, my forte in the last, gosh darn, I wrote a bunch of boating guide books, 9 of them, and people said we really like the local history you put into them. And I like to put it in there too, And the last, though, I haven't written a boating guide since about 2010. But I did research a book that was much more difficult than a boating guide. I could do a boating guide in 1 year. This book is thin, but it took me 2 years to write it. And I read 100 books to produce this book. Not very, it was not easy, not an easy job. But anyway, I love it because it's American history. And I think so many people don't know history at a time when our country there's a lot of things going on. If we just knew where we came from a little better, I don't say we don't know, but we need to know it better in some stories that people that walk the path behind us. And I think that's what those stories are very wonderful. And we don't, as Mark Twain says, history may not repeat itself, but it sure often rhymes. And I'm trying to tell you that today, another story of another great American history. So go on, Sarah. Should I go right into them or what?
Let me show you. Let me show our audience the book that he's talking about. So here is the book. They Made America Great. It's a wonderful book. I enjoy reading all the fabulous story of heroes, unsung heroes. Many of them you don't hear their name, but they did amazing job. So I'm just so appreciate what you have done, and we are doing this show so that our audience will know that this book exists and all these fabulous people exist. So, all right. Thank you, Rick. And so today I will let you tell the story, the topic for today.
Yes, today is about Daniel Inouye. Now, if you looked at that cover, not I have a lot of people that are not on the front cover, and Sarah said unsung heroes. Well, the ones in the back cover are not on the front cover, unsung. The ones you should know, I put on the front cover. This is one of those back cover fellows that people don't know. He died fairly recently, I think in 2012. And Daniel Inouye, and and I he was he was 17 years old in Honolulu, Hawaii. Honolulu, Hawaii was his city. He was a Nisei. That is a Japanese American who was one generation removed from Japan. His parents were from Japan, but he was actually born in Honolulu, and he considered himself an American. Well, on January 7th, 1941, Japanese airplanes are flying over Honolulu and bombing it. And there's a lot of Japanese Americans living in Honolulu, like a third of them. And Daniel said, this may not be very, and then how many, I think 3,000 people died that day. It was awful, close to 3,000. And Daniel saw some horrible things. Daniel wanted to become a doctor, a surgeon. He wanted to use his hands. So he was a Red Cross volunteer. And he, 17 years old, when Pearl Harbor got very badly mauled, he saw some sights and terrible things that he never hoped he would see. And so he saw that and took care of as many people as he could on so 17-year-old Red Cross volunteer on December 7th, 1941. Right after that, within 2 months, our country, as they often does, and then every country does, overreacted. The president signed an executive order, President Franklin Roosevelt, to round up all the Japanese and put them in camps, in concentration camps, basically. But anyway, the Japanese on the West Coast, most of the Japanese Americans, Nisei, lived on the West Coast or in Hawaii. And the ones on the West Coast, they put in concentration camps. And the ones in the Hawaii, they said, we can't do that because a third of the Hawaii, the economy will collapse without them. And so we won't do that to them. So it was a very bad thing. But fast forward, a year later, 1943, after the executive order was signed, it said, well, maybe we'll create a Japanese American unit of soldiers, a segregated unit, but we won't let them fight in Europe. In the Pacific, they're going to fight in Europe. And this unit was called the 442nd, a very heroic union. I like to talk more about it later. I can do a whole program on the 442nd, a wonderful, wonderful group of soldiers. So Daniel Inouye decides to join the 442nd, like many Japanese Americans who were wrongfully accused, wrongfully lost their property, and put in concentration camps, joined this unit, which started forming in 1943. After about a year of training, they went to Europe, Italy, France, and then Germany, and back in Italy. And Daniel Inouye joined this unit, and he started out as I think a corporal, a sergeant, and then he made a lieutenant. And he was in Italy, and he was hit by a machine gun, or not even a machine gun fire, just fire, and he had $2 silver in his breast pocket. They hit right there, and he didn't hurt him too badly, just ripped his shirt, and he says, "Live to fight another day." And then he goes later on. He's in France and back in Italy, and there's a machine gun nest, 3 machine gun nests, and he's the lieutenant now in charge of men, in charge of a platoon, which is about anywhere from probably 40 to 60 men. And he's leading his men as a good leader does. He was out front, and he's getting shot at again. And he was shot in the stomach and the leg. And he's bleeding badly, but he takes a hand grenade and throws it in one of the machine gun nests, running to the second nest. He throws it into the second machine gun nest. He's ready to take a third hand grenade and throw it into the third machine gun nest, and his hand gets all shot up. His arm gets he's holding the live grenade there. His men wanted to say, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And he ordered them away. He didn't want he knew he was going to get killed, probably going to get killed. He didn't want to blow any of them up, but he couldn't get the grenade out. So with his good left hand, he was able to take the grenade and throw it in the third machine gun nest. Then he passed out from loss of blood. And he got for that action later on here, he got the Medal of Honor, which is the highest medal. There were 21 men from this unit, the 442nd, who did get the Medal of Honor, all deservedly so. Daniel Inouye was one of them. I saw his picture. I went to the Medal of Honor Museum in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I saw his picture there, and I was very much touched. But anyway, he almost died. He didn't die. but they had to amputate his whole right arm without any anesthesia. You can imagine that. And then he needed blood badly. At least the joke is an older man later on in life that the nearest unit was a black unit, an African American unit of soldiers. And they also donated blood. So Daniel Inouye used to say, well, I'm half African American because I got a bunch of African American blood that saved his life in World War II. And he went back and great heroic of a man. And he later on, it took him 2 years in a hospital to recuperate. And there he met another young lieutenant who also lost his right arm. His name was Robert Dole from Kansas. Now, decades later, within a couple decades, both Robert Dole and Daniel Inouye were working together in a U.S. Senate. They both became senators. Well, after Daniel Inouye survived, he went back to Hawaii and he had no right arm. He wanted to be a surgeon. That's why he was a Red Cross volunteer. So he studied law and politics and I think something history or something, and became politics. And when Hawaii became a state in 1959, he was the first congressman. I think he had a couple congressmen now. And then 3 years later, he ran for Senate and was a senator from Hawaii. And he did that for the next 50 years. And a great story. And he passed away back in, how are we doing on time? He passed away back in, I think, 2012. Back to that. And anyway, we did some things really wrong. I'm going to get into our questions 3 and 4 here right now, Sarah. Question 3 is we did send some Japanese American into internment camps, and it was an awful thing to do. It was not a right thing to do. Franklin Roosevelt, the world, the country, just said, well, we're going to punish the Japanese. And these people lost their houses, their properties, everything. And it was, and when Daniel Inouye was an older man, a little bit before he died like in 2012. And we know we got attacked here in 2001. Daniel Inouye said, I hope we never do what we did due to the Arabs, what we did to the Japanese 60 years ago. It was so wrong. And there's a lot of sentiment to think the same thing to Arab Americans after 9/11, but Daniel Inouye was always against that. He was a chair of some very important committees when he was a senator. And what I liked about him, I'm going to answer another one. He was always a moderate. He was not a far left or well, there weren't too many Democrats who say are far right, but there's some that were far left. And Daniel Inouye was in the middle of the road, just like there's some Republicans that are in the middle, right down the middle of the road, that try to do the right thing. The middle of the road in politics is the least unsexy or the most unsexy place to be. As another one of my heroes, he didn't make the book because he was still alive, John McCain said. He was a Republican who also knew Daniel Inouye as a war hero. He said, right now, today, we're in the politics of far right divisiveness or far left in divisiveness. And Daniel Inouye said, no, that is not very good, as did John McCain. Where's the unsexy middle part of the bees where we should be, is we're the best for the country. Well, Inouye was one of those people on the Democratic, not by much, but on the Democratic side of the aisle. A very good guy, because he experienced at one time extremism in the United States, where we were basically attacking another group, pushing them in the corner, and he knew that was wrong. And Daniel Inouye was not about that at all. And that unit, the 442nd that he joined, my God, for their time in service and for their length of service, they had more medals than any other unit in American history. All of the Japanese American, not all, but a vast majority wanted to join that unit. They lost 2.5 times their number. They had, I think, 4,000 in that. It was a 442nd Regimental Combat Team. They had 4,000, and I think over time they had 2.5 times that many people in, because people got killed or replaced. They had 21 Medals of Honor, including Daniel Inouye. I think they had 1,000 Purple Hearts, if not more, and all kinds of awards. They did so many heroic things in Europe. We wouldn't let them fight in Japan because they were still prejudiced, and it was really wrong. And Daniel Inouye understood that as a young man, and he overcame that. He overachieved that by so much, by being in this wonderful unit, the 442nd. and when he was in Congress or in the Senate, basically, he that was his background, and he knew that, and so it's a wonderful guy, and that's why come I. That's why I like Daniel Inouye, Sarah. I probably left a lot of things out, but anyway, go ahead, maybe ask us some questions, and we'll go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you for filling in this the story behind his name. It
Great guy.
yeah. So I want to show the picture, his picture. I have his picture. So why don't we do that right now?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it will be good. Yeah, this is him,
Courtesy of the
Senator.
United States Senate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Okay. Now, I would like to ask you some question. So, what drew you to choose Senator Daniel Inouye for your 10th nonfiction book?
I kind of spent most of my growing up years around Washington, D.C., and being so, I did follow politics. I was close to Washington. I went to high school right in Northwest Washington, and I listened to the news in Washington, and I heard at nighttime. My mother was a news junkie, and I probably was too. I listened to the news, and there's some senators I really liked, and some senators I didn't like on the news. And obviously, everybody knows who the president was. We listened to the president, but I listened to certain senators. They weren't on TV all the time, but I like this guy, and I can say that for people on both sides of the aisle, Republican or Democrat, and I listen to him. I like what he's saying. I like what he's saying. He's not even as he's a teenager. I could say he's not like ranting and raving about some stupid issue. I shouldn't say stupid issue is very important to some people, and that's a misuse of words. But what he did he a very reasonable man, and he tried to say what it was like. And I heard him. I said, "Man, I like this guy. I want to know more about him." So that's why I followed him. I looked him up more. I saw him in the Ken Burns episode on World War II a little bit, and I knew he was a good guy.
Awesome. Thank you. So, uh, um, what did you especially like about Senator Inouye?
Well, when I started researching him, uh, his background. I have a soft spot for people that are picked on, and are a group of people that are picked on, whether it be African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and they rise above that. And that's and in Daniel Inouye certainly did that. So he rose above the lower people who were picking on him of his day, and he showed them what was really great about America. And he was an American. He didn't look like an Anglo-white American back in 1942, 1941, but he was more American than 90% of Americans, and that's what I like about him. He basically trial by fire, and he came out more than on top. And he was a reasonable politician his whole career. He was like, hey, we're not going to do this crazy thing. We're not going to pick on heirs right now because we just bombed 9/11. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. He was always, and he took a lot of responsibility. He basically chaired many committees in the Senate, and on top of him, and he was a very very reasonable man. And especially in today in our country, I think the word reasonable is thrown out the window. We all have to be on one tribe or the other tribe. We weren't tribe as the United States, and Daniel Inouye was on one group of the people that weren't that popular, but we're not 20 different tribes or even three different tribes. He was one tribe, United States, and that's what I like about him. He was a reasonable man.
Hmm. Thank you. I have another question. Can you tell us a bit about the Japanese-American internment camps
Oh
that
yeah,
was started right after Pearl Harbor was
two
bombed?
months after there were 10 of them. They were mostly out west, and they were not nice at all. The Japanese had 2 weeks or a week to get over to report somewhere, and they sent them to these 10 camps where they were not hot, no heat, in the winter, no cooling in the thing, and they were surrounded by barbed wire. And the children were, there was a lot of children there. The Japanese had their own way of, the elders sat with the children. They learned from that. That was all kind of like even their own culture and the way they had to eat in cafeteria like settings was all mashed, was all thrown out, and they had armed guards around these 10 camps in 7 western states in Arkansas, 6 western states in Arkansas, and they were not nice. And there's 2 of them in California, and it's just a real blot on American history. We have some blots, but I hope we learn from them. I hope we learn from them. I'm so worried right now that we're not learning from our history. We got to learn from it. And these Japanese internment camps, and that's what they were, internment camps. They weren't as bad as nearly anything that Hitler was doing in Germany, but they were not nice. There's people that had no reason to be in there, and there's a good movie about that. I think, Bad Day at Black Rock talked about a Japanese who fought and lost, and when he came back, his land was no longer there. And anyway, that's what they had to go through all this, and Ken Burns does a very nice job in his DVD on called The War about World War II. Talking about he interviewed a couple serious Japanese American that were fighting for the 442nd, and they came from that bad environment. Yes.
Hmm. Thank you. All right. Well, that's 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Sound like one extraordinary unit.
Oh no.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about them?
Well, they were formed a year after the internment camps, and yes, they were. Like they say, they got a bunch of presidential citations. I think 10 of them. They were used as cannon. They had a general. I'm not going to mention his name. He put them, oversaw them and other units. He always put that unit and gave them the cruddy job. They were getting, they lost and got shot up, and they rescued a battalion from Texas, a reserve battalion it was called a movie called, our story is called the Lost Texas Battalion. And it's true. They got cut off, and the 442nd saved them. The 442nd had, I believe, most of their soldiers came from Hawaii. Hawaii did not suffer as bad as the Japanese. The Hawaiian Japanese, or Nisei in Hawaii, didn't suffer as bad as they did in the concentration camps. But about 2,500, somewhere 2,600 of the 442nd came from Hawaii, like as Daniel Inouye did, and about 1,500 came from the West Coast. And it were about 4,000 strong, and they went through that number 2.5 times. And they had more medals, 21 medals of honor. Oh, I don't know, I think 1,000 Purple Hearts. And they wanted to prove themselves. I have a picture of them. I think President Obama, the few of them are still alive, gave them an award, and it made my heart cry, and it made my not my heart cry too. It made me cry. I mean, these old men sitting there, and they were real Americans. If everybody's going to tell me that the Japanese Americans were not any more American than anybody else, they're absolutely wrong. It's a great unit, one of the most proud units, one of the most accomplished units for their size in all of United States Army warfare. Great unit, and we were proud to have them as part of our American history.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Sarah.
Very nice. I think you choose the right man
I love it.
to feature in your book. So let me feature his picture again. This is Senator Daniel Inouye, and his story is written in this book. They made America great. So, and the book is available on his website, and I put the website up, rickrhodes.com, and you can find it there, or you can go to Amazon. But if you go direct to Rick, you will get an autographed copy, I'm sure.
And I also have an audiobook, both on the I don't know if it's Amazon, but somebody up there, and I have some audiobook copy versions of it too.
Wonderful. All right. So again, the book They Made America Great, and the author of the book is Rick Rhodes, and we both belong to the same club. That's how we know each other, right, Rick?
That's right. You're president now. Yeah. Good choice.
So let me show the information about our club. It's called Bay Area Professional Writers Club. So if I can find, yeah, here we go. Um, Bay Area Professional Writers Guild. That's BAPWG.org. We welcome you if you are interested in learning more about the Writers Guild. Come visit us. We meet once a month on the fourth Monday of the month at 1:30 p.m. You can reach out to me, or you can attend this website, and you can find more information about um, each members each member listed on the website. So it's a good club. You learn a lot about publishing, editing, and all the business about writing. So again, we thank you for watching. If you have any question, feel free to post your question. I can see, so I can ask Rick to answer your question. All right. So if we don't have any question, we will sign off. But we will come back next week, same time, same time. So I'm going to put this on a run, rickroad.com, and you are welcome to attend our Writers Club, Bay Area Professional Writers Guild. So I'm waiting for a few more minutes, 2 or 3 more minutes. If you have any question, don't be shy. Just post it, and I will make sure that Rick get your question answered. If not, we can sign off, and we'll see you next week at 2 o'clock. Feel free to share this video with your friend, or with people that are interested in history. Yeah, this book is a very good book that he feature wonderful men and women that did wonderful job for the country. So the title of the book is very good. They Made America Great, of course. Yeah, we want more of the people like that in our country. If not, we are going to sign off and say goodbye, and can't wait to feature another story next week, the same time, Thursday at 2 o'clock. All right. Thank you, Rick, for being here and for sharing a heartwarming story. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome. Bye now.